And it's been a busy year for Russian diplomacy, with some major agreements hammered out and international disputes dealt with. In an exclusive interview now, RT's Sophie Shevardnadze and Ali Al-Arab talked to Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov about the year's events and the prospects for the future.
Foreign Minister Lavrov, thank you very much for your time. In 2009, we've seen a number of major changes in Russian-US relations. The missile defense program in Europe has been halted, and we're expecting a new START treaty anytime soon to be signed. Now, if we continue working at the same pace, what's going to happen in a year? Which issues are on the agenda of the Russia-US relations in 2010?
I believe this year is characterized not only by the changes that have taken place within the US leadership, although they do represent some of the important events of the outgoing year, primarily what concerns the conceptual statements made by President Obama about the need to work on a collective basis, and about the fact that no single country today can dictate its will to others. We have welcomed this position, and we're working precisely to have the equitable approach assert itself in bilateral Russian-US relations. We are succeeding in doing this. At least the atmosphere that we have in our dialogue with America is totally different by comparison with what it was under the previous administration. The START Treaty, that is practically ready, and I hope the experts will finalize quickly enough, is based on some fundamentally new principles. I mean equal rights, parity, reciprocal trust, and, for the first time in history, the levels of strategic offensive arms will be unprecedentedly low. So we do have prospects in relations with the USA. This is not only in the sphere that we've inherited from the arms race epoch, but also in the strategic sphere. We have established a presidential commission with 16 working groups that embrace all conceivable themes of bilateral interaction and cooperation on international problems. We have a new and, to my mind, decent economic dialogue in progress. And, of course, we in the United States are working over the solution of very many international problems, be it Afghanistan, the Middle East settlement, the Iranian nuclear program, the nuclear program of the Korean Peninsula. So we won't be bored next year. The more so now that the international agenda goes far beyond the points I've just mentioned. We have major tasks facing us in the CIS, which Russia will chair. Next year will be the year of science and innovation in the Commonwealth of Independent States, which is in full conformity with the tasks that President Medvedev outlined in his address to the Federal Assembly, the tasks of modernization and technological breakthrough. Our Commonwealth neighbors, generally speaking, are grappling with the same problems. The economy must be put on a modern track. Next year will also be the 65th anniversary of victory in the Great Patriotic War. The CIS has declared it the Year of the Veterans. These will determine the main tasks of Russia's chairmanship, alongside the current issues, among which, let me indicate, economic cooperation, our joint effort to overcome the consequences of the crisis, the CIS continuing its work on a new free trade zone agreement within the Eurasic framework, an anti-crisis fund, and a centre for high technologies will function. The Customs Union will start operations on January the 1st, 2010, and, of course, the Collective Security Treaty Organization will be due to finalize matters related to the establishment of the Collective Operational Reaction Force and to strengthen the CSTO as a multi-profile and multifunctional organization that assures stability in a very important and very restless region, which is what I said primarily from the point of view of the drugs threat and the terrorist threat emanating from Afghanistan's territory.
Now here's a question regarding the Collective Security Treaty. Russia is proposing a new model to Europe in which all the decisions are to be taken jointly with Russia. The treaty's benefits are obvious to many, but why is Europe being so cautious about it? What are the prospects of Russia's proposal?
You know, changes taking place in world politics won't crystallize overnight. A certain amount of time is needed, because the inertia of old thinking is huge. After all, what we are suggesting is not a new decision-making model. We are suggesting a very simple thing: the political declarations made in the 1990s. You may remember what condition Russia was in at the time. Those political declarations said that the Euro-Atlantic security was indivisible, and that no single state would assure its security at the expense of the security of others. For some reasons, I won't go into them, although one might speak for a long time on this, those political promises are not working, even though all Euro-Atlantic heads of state, without exception, did put their signatures to them. We would like to come to a new level of confidence and to make the same political declarations legally binding, to convert the declarations to an international legal treaty. Thus, here we are not suggesting anything new, but so far our partners are practicing with a cautious attitude. They suspect us of wishing to obtain a veto with regard to NATO activities and its expansion. This is absolutely wrong. Our president has repeatedly refuted those speculations. As for us, we just want one thing. Security in the Euro-Atlantic zone should be based on international legal obligations. If this had been done before August 2008, the tragedy in South Ossetia might not have occurred, nor would there have been Kosovo's unilateral independence, nor still many other irritants that, regrettably, persist as risks for the European continent. So we won't go into lower gear where the advancement of our initiative is concerned. It's absolutely comprehensive and very hard to contest, and I'm sure that in the final analysis, I don't know when, because everything depends on how quickly our partners renounce their inertia of old thinking, but I am certain that it will flesh out after all.
The new NATO Secretary-General Anders Rasmussen visited Moscow at the end of this year, and it looks like most differences over the past years have been settled. Russia is ready to help NATO in Afghanistan. Is this an equal partnership?
Our NATO colleagues say nothing should be changed in the European security system. They're pleased with it as it is. Of course, they can well go on living with this position. At the same time, the same NATO partners come to this country and say we expect you to send helicopters to Afghanistan, and we also expect more effective contributions to the Afghan campaign in other forms. But you shouldn't think about security in Europe, because we'll sort it out on our own. We're helping NATO in Afghanistan in any event. And we're doing that on the assumption that the threat from Afghanistan affects everyone. Neither do we want some even greater risks to arise from there for Central Asia and the Russian Federation. But, you know, this approach is utilitarian and inequitable, and NATO will have to reckon with it.
2009 saw a stalemate in the process of Middle East settlement. What is suggested by Israel is divergent from international standards and has no chance of survival. But what is being suggested by the international community, the Quartet in particular, lacks force. How will things shape up?
You
are quite right. There are internationally recognized principles that must be the basis of a Middle East settlement. Not only the Palestinian-Israeli issue, but also a universal Arab-Israeli settlement. These principles have been incorporated not only in the Quartet's decisions, but also in the resolutions of the UN Security Council. In May of this year, when Russia chaired the UN Security Council, we made a point, including with regard for the fact of there being a new Israeli government, of holding a Security Council meeting on the Middle East and approving a resolution that clearly reaffirmed all decisions on what principles should lie at the base of Middle East settlement, without exception. The resolution was passed by a consensus. It wasn't challenged by anyone, neither the Palestinians nor Israel, nor any other party, and it remains an international law, if you will, which must be abided by. In the outgoing year, we, in fact, including within the Quartet, came to terms on supporting the efforts of a number of states that had played the role of intermediaries, looking for ways of overcoming some concrete impasses that had taken shape in different areas of international efforts. We, in particular, continue to support Egypt's efforts, which are seeking to help overcome the split between Palestinians and restore Palestinian unity. We also support the effort to free Gilad Shalit in exchange for the liberation of a number of Palestinian prisoners. We also support Senator Mitchell's efforts, who's been urging the sides to coordinate the terms for the resumption of negotiations. But what Senator Mitchell has managed to achieve, and what has been worded by Prime Minister Netanyahu, is a step in the right direction. I mean the temporary freeze on certain aspects of the settlement activities, but of course it is insufficient. For further progress to be made, the Quartet possibly needs to come into play again. Currently, we're handling this matter. This is likely to happen early next year.
Thank you very much for this interview.